Welcome back to the weekly portfolio update videos. Currently, my two stock portfolios sit at a combined value of over $115,000. That's made up of the $61,381 in my stake portfolio and then the $54,000 in my Vanguard portfolio. Overall, it's been a great month for me, and I just had a look and my stocks are up over $8,500 in value in the last month. Obviously, it's been a bit of a rough time for investors over this last 2 months as stocks fell, especially around Liberation Day, but things have really bounced back. If we go through and have a look at some of my holdings, I'm now up 23% again in my stake portfolio. Some of my holdings that have bounced back recently, you can look at Amazon stock. Amazon stock is one of my biggest holdings at $6,762 USD in total equity, or around 33 shares. And if we have a look at the last month, the stock is up 9.27%. I was heavily buying Amazon at a time, and I'm now up 4.5%. So as my average share price did go up, as I was buying at some of not the best times, but I am still now in the green with Amazon, a company I really believe in, and I'll touch on that later. Some of the other companies that have done quite well recently, when you have a look through, is companies such as Microsoft. So Microsoft is one of my oldest holdings in my portfolio, and the stock is up nearly 7% in the last month. I have $6,250 USD invested into Microsoft, or around 13.6 shares, and I'm up around 46%. So really strong gains, as this is a company I've been holding for the long term. Overall, when we look at my portfolio, this has been a great bounce back, and when we have a look at the Excel spreadsheet later, I'll be able to show you just how much both my portfolios have jumped. Speaking of both my portfolios, if we have a look here at my Vanguard portfolio, this is now sitting at $54,000 as I get closer and closer to hitting that $55,000 mark, which I would have hit this week, but I had to buy some flights, so the money that I would have invested, I bought with that. I already have been investing pretty heavily so far already this year, so I wasn't too upset about missing 1 week, especially as prices have rebounded a little bit. But if we have a look at this portfolio, VGS is my biggest position across both the portfolios, sitting at around $43,356, around 311 shares, and this is a really broad diversified market tracking ETF across, I think it's 1,500 companies. And the stock price is getting closer to that 140s. At times, when I was buying in, it was all the way down at around 127 and even 129, around kind of there. I was loading up and growing my position, and it has really bounced back. My other position is VLC. So this is the Australian Large Companies Index. So this is the 20 largest companies in Australia, and I own around 126 shares of that ETF. That's sitting at around $10,500 in equity. And it has bumped up. It was trading at around the 78s at some point, 77s, 76, and it's gone all the way up to 83. It's still not quite at its highs of 86, but this is a position that I am happy to sell. I speak about this a lot, that this money can potentially go towards a house deposit, supporting it. And at the moment, I get a quite strong dividend from that position. But yeah, it has bounced back, and it has helped my overall portfolio get to this $54,000 mark, as I really have aimed to get my Vanguard portfolio bigger and bigger, and for it to match my stake portfolio. So there was a point of time, which I will show on the Excel spreadsheet. If we have a look at this here, you can see there was times when my Vanguard portfolio was very small. You can see it here, $2,900 compared to the $17,700 in my stake portfolio. But overall, as time went on, as you look at these graphs, you can see the kind of upward trajectory of both the accounts. And I think this was the only ever down quarter I had, or down month I had with my Vanguard portfolio. Very small. But the reason why these have been doing so well is because I've been dollar cost averaging into my accounts for years now. I'm a firm believer in investing over a long period of time. Again, especially if you're young and you have a longer investment horizon ahead of you like I do. I'm only 22 years old. So as long as I can keep building these portfolios and keep grading my positions, I should be able to do pretty well long term. And as you can see, at the end of last month, my stake portfolio was sitting around $56,549. And that's jumped all the way up to $61,381. My other portfolio, my Vanguard one, was sitting around 50,365, and that's jumped up all the way to 54,000. And again, Some of this is deposit, but a majority of this is gains. That's because of the hard work I've done in other months. You can see there was a time where things were 57,000, and then I had a few months that was down, as you can see on the stake portfolio, and then things have shot up. If you were to actually like put a trend line through this, you would see it's kind of just reverted to the mean of where it was if it just followed the line that it's currently been on. And then my Vanguard portfolio never really had a dip because I was heavily investing in my Vanguard portfolio even during the downturn. What this means is my Australian portfolio has grown a lot, and that is the goal. The goal is to keep it around 50-50 split between my American portfolio and my Australian portfolio. And the goal was to keep my American portfolio around 50% invested in VOO. It's sitting at 45% now, which is a little bit undervalued, so it's a little bit under allocated. I need to move some money into VOO, which I will do when I do my deposits over time. But because there was such good buying opportunities in the likes of Google and Amazon, that's where a lot of my money was going when I was investing in my American portfolio. In terms of my Australian portfolio, it's sitting around 80% to 20% weighting. Historically, this was around 60-40, but I have been cutting back. I sold around $6,000 in my Australian VLC position, and I invested that back into my VGS position. As I try to hit 50,000 for that, I'm happy with my exposure for my VLC position to be around 10 grand, but I really want to get my VGS position to 50,000. That's another goal of mine. In terms of dividends, it was a very slow month for dividends. I'm not a dividend investor as much as I had been previously. My focus is a lot more on capital gains, and you can see this month's dividends, I got nothing in my Vanguard account, and I got $2.64 in my stake account. I think that might have been from Apple and someone else, I think Costco maybe. Overall, slow month for dividends, but that doesn't really matter. My big dividends are the quarters. So you can see last month was a big month for me, with over 500, close to, especially because that is USD, getting closer to like 570, I'm guessing, 580 Australian dollars, and $580 in dividends, which was probably my biggest ever month of dividends, which was quite good. And all of that money just gets reinvested back into my portfolio, which in total helps kind of fund this growth that we're looking at here. If we go back to my portfolios as well, I did say I'd touch on some of the other companies that I had been investing in. So Amazon is one of them. I was investing a lot of money into Amazon. I got a bit unlucky when I was buying. If we have a look at the last 6 months, the stock was quite high and it dipped. It dipped to around $613 here, and I bought in heavy because I thought that was already a bit of a discount, and it just continued to dip. I did buy more and more, but not as much because I did allocate a lot of the money early, and I didn't get to capitalize on this really, really rough time here. But I knew the stock would bounce back long term. I think there was a lot of worry around tariffs, especially how Amazon would be affected with their Chinese business. But I thought long term, again, Amazon would be able to bounce back, and this would kind of be a small hurdle. Again, we're still far off the $240 share price that it has hit previously. And if we go back in the last year, the stock is still up 16%. But yeah, I still think it's a great company to buy into, and I was happy I was buying there. What that did do is it really lifted my average buy price up to $196 a share. But again, I'm trying to keep a long-term look, and it's really allowed me to grow a position that I really do believe in. Another company I invested a lot of money into is Google. So whilst Amazon's had a bit of a rough time, but it's still up, Google's actually down on the year. But if we have a look at the last month, it has bounced back a lot. And in the last 6 months, it's pretty flat. The stock had traded previously in the 200s, and then it went through this really, really rough period, and I was buying more and more. So you can see I'm up around 4%, similar to like I am with Amazon, because it's the same story. And I have around 5,800 in total equity. I have pretty much the same amount of shares as well, so the two are pretty similar. But I think Google's a really great company long term. I think its PE ratio is very attractive, especially when you compare it to other big tech stocks. And I think hopefully long term it can be a real good alpha generator for my portfolio. Again, only 20% or around 20-25% of my portfolio is actually invested in individual stocks. A lot of the rest of it is invested in ETFs. So this is just kind of where I have a bit of fun in investing in companies I believe in, such as Costco. Costco, I am actually a card holder in Costco. Went there today. It's up nearly 5% in the last month, so it's had a strong month. Even the last week, it's up 2.6%. If you look at the last year, it's up 28%. Costco's been a great business. There's always a worry around its P ratio because of how expensive it trades at. That's one of the reasons I sold half my position and really locked in some gains. But the majority the rest that I did keep, I'm up 80% on it with an average share price of 574. So it's been a great investment for me over these years. And yeah, it's just a company that I love. I'm not investing in it currently just because of the price, but I still think it's a great company. Another one is VOO, obviously my biggest position in this portfolio. People do wonder why I invest so much into ETFs. I don't think I'm some great stock picker. I think I can benefit from just being in the market over a long period of time. And when it had these big dips here, you can really see the overall market trends and how much it's really bounced back. The S&P 500 is still up, like it says, nearly 12% in the last year, so it's been a great year for investors. And overall, I'm still up 28% as I dollar cost average into this position. This is kind of how my portfolio is looking at the moment. Again, we're sitting at over 115,000 as it's kind of bounced back recently. But feel free to share how your portfolios are doing in the comments and what you think we should do going forward. Cheers.